It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's another episode of Superhero Deep Dive. Thank you for joining. I am your host, Jason. Before I get into everything this week, I have to give my normal disclaimer that the information gathered today has been pulled from different sources across the internet and may or may not be completely complete. They do give a really good insight on the current superhero, though. So take everything. If there's anything you'd like to add, um, any questions, comments, critiques, uh, requests, I am 100% open to it. You can use the hashtag on any of your social media, hashtag superhero deep dive. You can also find me on Twitter at b the number four it all one, or you can email me at b the number four it all at yahoo.com. So yeah. Um, oh, and also I've started transposing, or I don't know the right term, translating all my podcast recordings over to YouTube with like slideshows of character artwork that I found, and all copyrights go to them as well. So you can look that up under Superhero Deep Dive. I think I've gotten up to my Jubilee episode, so I only have a few more episodes to catch up with. But yeah, this week I am gonna talk about the DC Comics character Halo. I remember Halo from um, the Batman and the Outsiders comics back in, I believe, the late 70s and early 80s, when I was collecting older issues. And this was when I was a kid. Um, and Halo always had like kind of a really cool power. And we're going to get into that. I didn't understand it, and I've gotten a little bit more information on it now and how we can kind of expand on it. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to be talking about Halo. Her real name, it's been very weird. Her human name is Violet Harper, but she's also gone by Gabrielle Doe. I don't know. Says Halo is a gestalt or a gestalt. I don't know what that is. I looked it up, and it says it's a being whose total is more than the sum of its parts. So in her terms is like, she's a mix of a human woman named Violet Harper and an oracle, but not like an oracle, like Barbara Gordon. An oracle, um, which is basically Aurakle, like aura and cult. So this thing like inhabited a body, and it became more powerful as a result. It's an ancient energy being resembling a sphere of iridescent light. The oracle species emerged from the source billions of years ago at the dawn of time. Now, the source is kind of like what DC Comics uses as kind of like the Big Bang Theory, like that one initial spark, the source of everything. Um, so yeah, emerged billions of years ago at the dawn of time. Now, Violet Harper was actually a sociopath, and she was murdered by someone named Cyanide, who was an operative. It's just a bad guy. Not worrying about her. But the Oracle, who had been observing her out of curiosity, because why not, was sucked into the newly vacant body. So just like, boop, reanimating the deceased body. So, yeah, that happened. That happened. Someone died. It must not have been like a bloody or gruesome death. It must have been just something. Um, and she got sucked into it. Uh, I have an active imagination, but I'm not even going there. It reanimated the deceased body. The shock of the death and resurrection induced a profound loss of memory in the new combined entity. She was later found and recruited by Batman to serve as a member of the Outsiders. And the Outsiders was kind of like a group that Batman formed, and they would do kind of like um, it's been described as like Black Ops missions, but it never seemed like that. It was just like a kind of like a low level super team, not quite the Teen Titans, definitely not the Justice League. Um, in the terms of like if you're familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the movies, it would be kind of like their Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they're not as good as the Avengers, but they're good. Just not as good. They're not the all-star team like the Avengers. But these guys aren't in space. They're just, street level people. But yeah, so that just kind of helps put it in scale. Um, so yeah, let's say she was recruited. In one early incident, Halo gains access to the memories of the long-lived Oracle and becomes emotional over the tendency of human beings to kill each other. Halo later has to deal with the consequences of her body's previous actions because it was a freaking sociopath, which required the assistance of the Outsiders team to resolve. Um, that can include like basic, just talking them down from things, trying to find the good side in things, trying to actually show like a resolution for things. But she's this being that's inhabiting a dead body, and she's realizing that this dead body did some terrible things. Um, the young Halo is initially the legal ward of her friend and Outsiders teammate Katana. During her stint in the Outsiders, she also gains a friend in a new member of the Outsiders named Windfall. I'm not worrying about Windfall or anything. But it was just kind of funny because, it's a legal ward of Katana. So let's say Katana was Batman, Halo would be her Robin. So, yeah. um, a billion-year-old Robin. Halo did die, in a manner of speaking, in a much later incident, after the team was framed for the murder of Markovia's queen, which is like kind of a separate country. Um, it was caused by some vampires, it looked like. They were forced to flee. Um, let's see here. They like it's so weird. It's so weird. But there was a not a cyborg. But there was some kind of like assassin named Ryder or Ryer. Um, and killed or no, there was I'm sorry. There's a bunch of information about this Markovia thing, but it's not necessarily pertinent to this. So I apologize. There's a cyborg named Sanction who nearly kills the Outsiders in Switzerland. He finds them again in Gotham City because they probably went to their headquarters to lick their wounds. He attacks again, slaying Halo, and also slayed another lady named Marissa. Um, and as the same thing the Oracle did with the body of Violet Harper, Halo's essence is sucked into Marissa's body, reanimating it. So it's really weird. So it's kind of like the Oracle is actually the power. Like what it reminds me of? It reminds me of in the 80s and 90s and probably 70s as well. Marvel had this kind of being called Captain Universe that was like super, super powerful. But the thing is, it would only inhabit random people at random times. Um, and it'd give them like these tremendous powers. And then after they did like a mission or something, they fought something. And it would vary from thing to thing. It would leave them and go on to somewhere else. But it sounds like that's kind of what this is. Like if someone dies, the essence just pops up in another body. So it's kind of interesting with that because What if you could capture that essence, so to speak, that little ball of light? Um, who knows? And I wasn't even going there with the power expansions, but that might be another story. So we'll circle around to that. Her powers. Halo can create auras of the 7 known rainbow colors around herself, and she can also do white. So 8 colors, I guess. Um, we'll start with Violet, which gives her self healing and resurrection powers. Indigo, which is like a tractor beam. Um, Blue, a blue aura creates holographic duplicates. A green aura does stasis beams, and she can also use those to, like, if she has someone trapped in a stasis beam, she can also use that energy to control their movements. Yellow, she can stun people with it. It creates stun beams, and it can also blind people. Temporarily, of course. Kind of like a big light burst. Orange gives her concussive blast because why not? Um, Red gives her flight, an energy shield, and heat beams, where she can burn people or burn things with it. So, there's a lot of powers there with it. And she also has a white aura, which is able to overcome shadows and dark energies. So I'm wondering if that's like with Raven from Teen Titans. There's some other magic users that relied on like shadow type powers. So I wonder if it can handle that, like if it can dispel that. I know that she was also able to use her powers to heal and resurrect some of the Black Lanterns when they had the Darkest Night series come out. She was able to use that because the Black Lanterns were all like zombied versions of some of these superheroes. So if she's able to resurrect them, then they're not necessarily zombies anymore, and they're taken care of. So it's kind of cool. It's a whole wide range of powers with this. Relationships. Halo has been in a romantic relationship with someone named Sebastian Faust, which I didn't look up Sebastian Faust, but I'm assuming that he is a magic user because the Faust name, Faust, in DC Comics is known for magic. So there's that, and it looks like she also had a romantic relationship with a prince of Markovia named Geoforce, and he could he could control the earth and kind of like cause earthquakes and stuff. He didn't have the same type, like telekinetically moving the earth like his sister could, whose name is Terra, which you may remember her from Teen Titans fame. But he was very powerful on his own. He could like shoot up columns of earth, and stuff like that. He was always a cool character. I always liked him. I've always had kind of a thing for like the elemental type superheroes anyway. So, but yeah. Fun facts. She can use her powers to change between civilian clothes and her superhero uniform instantly. She also has appeared in the Batman Brave and the Bold animated series as part of the Outsiders, which is her team anyway. And she appears in Young Justice in the 3rd season. And you may catch a quick glimpse of her because her outfit looks like it's like a black bodysuit, but it's got waves of color on it. Kind of almost not like a rainbow, but kind of like a stylized type rainbow. But she also appears in the animated movie Justice League: Crisis on Two Earths. She was part of one of the crime syndicate gangs. So yeah, she's got a lot of history to her. She's always been portrayed as kind of naive, and I think what that is because of the fact that her essence has always been kind of like one of the first beings ever created. I mean, really, I mean, she's billions of years old from the source. Like, she came directly from the thing of all things. So, she's always been portrayed as kind of naive, and I think that's one of those things where, um, as the race of oracles go, they're not dumb. They've just gathered so much wisdom that things don't really bother them on the same level that they bother normal people. Like, we may get stuck in traffic and get frustrated, whereas she may be driving and get stuck in traffic and take the time to appreciate the shapes of the clouds or something. Things just don't bother her. But they give her that um, appearance of or perception of being naive. And I don't think that it's a fact that she's naive. I just think that she finds the things that we find serious, she finds them kind of trivial. And to me that makes sense. Like, for years I studied martial arts growing up, and you'd realize, after a certain amount of time that, like, you can walk into a situation where people get really stressed and really tense because they're worried about their own well-being, and you walk in with a little bit more relaxed because you have that experience, you have that wisdom, knowing that if something were to go down, um, you're in a better position to take care of yourself, and things like that. So, like, like, it's not naive. You're not being dumb by being more relaxed. You're just not. You're just understanding things on a different level than other people are, and I think that's what she's doing in this. Like, she's not naive. She's just wiser, and she's not sweating it. But yeah. So let's get to my favorite part. This is power expansion time. So, before I said, she's a ball of light basically that inhabits bodies, and then they become sentient and more powerful as a result. So, what if someone could trap that, and use it almost like a battery to fuel their own needs? That could be crazy because how would you or what would you do to that? Um, how could you control something like that? It'd be interesting to find out. Would it take away from who the character is? Also, I mean, like, and that's just one idea I just had with this, like, actually doing the podcast. Um, I'm sorry, excuse me, I had something caught in my throat. Um, I mean, who knows where that could lead? I have no idea because I mean, it's just crazy because the auras change color to change the powers. So if you could trap it, um, would you be able to control it? Would you be able to change the colors of that aura at at your own will or own whim to create different effects? And what if you tried to use it as a power source and it decided to change colors on its own, and mess you up? So I don't know. That'd be interesting to examine. Um, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to put Halo a on a level with, like, on par or greater than the lanterns, like the Green Lantern, Red Lantern, White Lantern, all those Yellow Lanterns, like Sinestro and stuff. I'm like, let's have her powers, like the Oracles, be the primordial basis for all of the other entities that form the various lanterns. Because the lanterns were kind of like embodiments of different emotions, but they all represented different colors. So, you had yellow, which was fear, green is willpower, orange is greed, um, and it's kind of like the farther they went on the spectrum, the more extreme they got. So, like, red was anger, but it was like this violent fury anger. But violet was like love, and it was kind of like this love that it was like almost like a psychopathic obsessive love. It was crazy, and it's because they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. They're separated. They're farther from the center. Um, so what if the oracles were the basis for those entities? With all the different auras that she can produce. Um, so and in essence, like she could be more powerful than the White Lantern, who is Kyle Rayner, but with a lot less experience. So we could create a whole series on this, and document her journey through all the various lantern colors, like trying to learn different things. So like the powers that she has with each different aura color, she could refine and build on those. Um, but what we could do with that is have her um, have her end in a massive showdown with and there's a couple that I can think of. I can think of the Black Lantern. Like, what if he comes back? And I think that one was run by someone named Necron. What if Necron comes back and they do that? What if she's doing all this and the Orange Lantern is her big bad guy? Because he's primarily greed. He doesn't want anyone. He doesn't want to share his powers with anyone at all. Like he will actually create orange constructs of other lanterns just so he can be the main one, because he's that greedy. So what if he sees her and discovers that she's got this primordial power, and he wants it because that's what he does. He wants things. And because it's primordial, it could be even greater than the orange power that he already has. It just needs to be tapped into. So what if he is the big bad guy in this? Just based on the greed alone of having the original source. Not even like the source, but the source's source of his power. Like that could be pretty cool. Um, and I think it would be a great series because she could team up with other lanterns. And kind of learn about what makes their emotional spectrum kind of tick, the beings that kind of power it, things like that. It could cause her to grow as a character because we got to remember this essence is like billions of years old, but there hasn't been any kind of like, if you look at her powers, they're great, but they are also kind of basic, like on a basic level. So what if, as she grows, she gets more nuanced with things, and it can cause her character also develop into something that could be a massive power source. And just without that like refinement that the Lantern Rings give to their respective wearers. One thing that keeps coming up in mind is Guy Gardner from the Green Lanterns, and he's also got Red Lantern powers too, I believe. But when he would do um, constructs with his Green Lantern ring, it always kind of have this like smoky or fire kind of effect to it. Like it always seemed like it was just surging with energy, and it's because he was very wild and very, very stubborn. He had a lot of willpower, but he was very unrefined. So all of his constructs had this kind of flame-like effect to it because that's just who he was. He was kind of wild and, in a lot of ways you could say primitive with it. Not with the level of his constructs, just with the energy. It's just this raw energy. So what if she had that? Like Because that's basically what she is. Like the character could be this untapped source of this raw energy that all these other entities developed from, and then as they developed, they became a little bit more sophisticated than their predecessor. And like, I mean, it's almost like, us today, like, we can do things technology wise, like, we are a little bit more refined than, say, our parents were. But our kids now are, like, a whole lot more refined than we were at their age. Just because of the way the technology is. They've been exposed to things, and, so it's like, it doesn't make them wiser, it doesn't make them smarter. It just makes them more refined, more tech savvy, more, kind of intuitive in things. Um, so what if it's like that, like, you know, um, her the Oracle's still strong, still crazy strong and powerful. It's just unrefined. So this could be a journey to get to that, um, and not maybe even on a level of any of the lanterns that have been going around, like Hal Jordan or Sinestro, but just enough to where she grows exponentially, because the character can be a source of great power. Like, it could be one of the big ones, but we don't have to have it as one of the big ones. We can just have it as what it is, just better. So what do you guys think? Let me know. I'm really excited about the character, because Halo was one of those ones that she would fight, and in the comics, like, she always had this kind of innocence about her, which is, I think, that naivety. But you know, I don't even want her to get her hands dirty for the most part. It's just, I just want her to grow, because I think that in this day and age, we're seeing stuff all over the news. Comics have gotten a little bit darker, more serious tone as a result, because the comics are artwork of our time. So, they're kind of doing that. And sometimes having that naivety or the innocence is a breath of fresh air. And that's actually one of the reasons why Shazam or Captain Marvel has always been my favorite superhero of all time. So, what do you guys think? Let me know. Shoot me an email. It's b4itall@yahoo.com. You can catch me on Twitter at b4itall1. And make sure you use the hashtag superherodeepdive. Keep a lookout on YouTube. Watch my videos, please. That share them with friends. Share the podcast with friends. Let's grow the audience. So we can have discussions and we can get insight and learn more, because I am trusting that if you are listening to this, that you are a superhero fan. And I am a superhero fan. I haven't gotten into comics in years, but I've always been a superhero fan. So let's grow that passion together. But I am going to talk to you guys next week. Everyone be safe, be happy, be smart, and if you're not smart, don't get caught, okay? All right, I will talk to you later. You guys take it easy. Bye-bye.